So let's see here. As you can see, every once in a while, it's good to take a quick survey of the table and figure out your position. The best part is when you can look down and see that you have, the biggest stack. Stu RS is the only one really in striking distance of me, and after that we have Coppercliff, who I almost have twice as many chips as. So this is a perfect spot. This is a spot where I'm going to be opening a lot of small pots, min raising a lot from any position with a wide variety of hands, and hope to win with C bets after the flop. I have to be careful that I don't raise into blinds or spots where people can shove on me. So you have to recognize the kind of players who know how to use their shove stack. Steve has a shove stack. Anything between 17 and 20 big blinds is a perfectly good stack to re-raise all in with. And I will have to. It's not giving me good pot odds to call. I think that I don't see Amethambo. He also has a shove stack, but I don't see him being that kind of player. I think Eradicator and Steve are the ones I really have to worry about here. The rest of them, I think I can just raise, and if they call, then I can C-bet the flop and take down a small pot, and do that over and over again, and that's how you grow your chip stack, slowly but surely. I'm not going to raise the old 7-3 into the gun, though. Alright, so on the turn here, there's 2780 in the pot, and Amethambo has less than that. I think the only bet he can make here is to shove. If he's gonna make any bet, then that's the only reasonable bet to make. Making a small bet here, to me, implies that he's crazy strong and he wants action from Coppercliff. I expect that he'll get it. And again, here you don't make any other bet but shove all in here. Yeah, that's just. I'm kind of rooting for a fold from Amethambo because that would be hilarious, leaving himself with like 4 big blinds behind after betting flop turn and river. But he calls, and he has exactly what we thought he would. But Coppercliff was fortunate enough to get there in river. I think both players actually should have gotten all the money in way before the river. With Amethambo's stack size. If he recognizes that Coppercliff's calling and you have top pair, top picker with such a short stack, get it in on the flop of the turn. Most likely the turn would be the better spot. With Coppercliff, with top pair, second kicker, when you see that your opponent is looking to get the money in and he has such a short stack, oblige him. You have a very strong hand. It happened to be the worst hand in this situation until the river, but I think all the money should have gone in. Definitely on the turn. And most likely on the flop, given Amethambo's stack size and the relative strength of their hands. I mean, in the end, all the money did go in, and Coppercliff hit his 2-outer and busted Amethambo. Alright, this is fairly weak defend, or fairly loose defend. I don't usually do this, but to the min raise, I think it's not so bad, especially against the second biggest stack of the table. I'm not going to go nuts if I had a 6 or a queen. I'm hoping to maybe hit 2 pair or trips or play a flush draw aggressively and get Stu to fold. But there's not much damage to calling the min raise here from the big blind. If I miss the flop and I can just check fold, that's fine. But we're so deep that if I hit the flop strong, then I might win a big pot. And that's the kind of flop I was looking for. Okay, so he bets out half the pot. My choices here are between calling and raising, and that I think it's player dependent. I think in this situation, if I remember correctly, I call mainly because I didn't think a raise would get a fold often enough. If Stu was raising pre and then betting the flop, I just didn't see him folding enough to make this a profitable bluff raise and hope to hit my flush. I think that was my plan, to play it a little slow, a little safe. Hope maybe he slows down on the turn. I can bet the river even if I miss. Just hoping to see if he has that king. If he has the king, then he's going to bet again, and then I can fold quite safely and not commit too many chips. Probably played a bit weakly, but against the other big stack of the table, I didn't want to get too involved with just queen high. Against one of the shorter stacks, I probably would have, committed 18 big blinds versus Eradicator or Steve. But against the other big stack, I think I wanted to play that a bit softly, maybe hit my flush and try to win a pot that way. Alright, this is a pretty standard raise from the small blind. You don't always have to raise from the small blind. Sometimes I limp here, but I think a hand as weak as Jack 6 I like to raise rather than call, because it plays so badly post flop. So I'm raising hoping to take it down pre-flop, and if he does call, then I'm going to c-bet any board and hope to take it down post flop. Just didn't happen to work this time. I think I like a 3-bet here. I think Coppercliff has been aggressive enough that he doesn't always have to have the best hand. I will have position on him if I raise him here, and Queen Jack offsuit plays well post flop. I think I'd rather do it with a hand like Queen Jack offsuit than Ace 9. Ace 9, you're basically hoping for a pair, but Queen Jack offsuit, you can play your pair strong, and you can make straight draws, and a lot of 2-pair combos. So I think I'd like a 3-bet here, but I don't. I just flat. I don't actually like that very much, especially since it lets the small blind in for cheap. Okay, so here's Coppercliff with that weak lead, and I think this is, even though there's a player behind, I think I like attacking this weak lead in position, which I do. You don't have to make it too much. I think that's probably a bit big, although it's not horrendously big. Actually, the sizing is fairly good. It's almost 3x. It gets 2 out of the way, and unfortunately Coppercliff calls. So now we're pretty much shutting down. He's not folding any flush draws, so I don't want to try to barrel that through. I don't think he has the ace. I think he would have played the ace a bit faster, but I just don't see any value in betting here. And now he's, the flush draw got there, whole mess of things got there, and I don't think there's any value in buffing into Coppercliff anymore, because he's shown a tendency to call very light. So I took my one stab, and I was never ahead, but he surely wasn't folding that on the river. That's okay. Like I said before, I think I wish I had attacked those weak leads a bit more often, and even though this time it didn't work, I think as an overall strategy, an overall game plan versus this specific player, I don't mind the play. Like I said, it just didn't happen to work this hand. And when you try to play out of the box and it doesn't work, sometimes they reward you for your gusto by giving you the aces. Let's see if we can get some action here. Alright, so both the blinds call. Seems like a fairly safe flop. There's the weak lead from Coppercliff. So I'm debating here between just calling and letting him, bet 3 streets, or raising now. I think I like just calling better, but if I remember correctly... Oh, no, I do just call. Okay. And so that brings Steve along. And so now Coppercliff gives up, and I take my bet, and they both fold. Yeah, I think by raising there, I would have lost Steve, and it wouldn't have given Coppercliff a chance to bet on the turn. And once they both check the turn, I can pretty safely take a 10 out of their range, and unless, obviously it's a crazy slow play. But on that board, I think you want to keep betting your 10. I think there's too many draws out there that a 10 wouldn't slow down. So we can safely bet our ace on the turn. Excuse me, our aces. When you got a both, you gotta recognize. All right, not so strong a pair, but we are gonna raise. Keep on raising. Again, just the min raise. Now here's the hand that I thought was happening earlier, but we'll go through it this time and see where the mistake was. Because I think I made a mistake, and I could have gotten a lot more chips out of this hand. As you can see, I did flop metal set. I I think my betting on the turn here was the problem, if I remember correctly. Let's just go through it. Alright, so we lead out as we would pretty much anytime we raise pre-flop. We're going to bet the flop. That's a good rule of thumb that I've kind of been using a lot lately, and it's proven to be fairly profitable. A lot of people like to slow play when they flop a set, especially when they're out of position. You know, get a good check raise in. I find that the better strategy overall is to just lead out and start building the pot right now, especially if you have a reputation for being an aggressive player. And you know, I try to develop that kind of reputation, and here's where hopefully it pays off. They all know that I'm going to be betting a lot pre-flop, and I'm going to betting anytime I raise pre-flop. I'm going to be betting on the flop. So go ahead and bet on the flop with all your bluffs and all your value hands, and see if you can start to build a big pot. So we have the perfect situation. Stu makes a 4x re-raise. I think in this situation, you know, in my seat, looking at it in game, I like it because it's oversized, but I don't think you need to commit that many chips. I think you can get away with making it, you know, 1200 or so. He's trying to bomb me off the pot, and anytime you try to bomb somebody off the pot, you generally get the results, the exact opposite results of what you wanted. Here's a debate that I went through in game, whether or not I should raise now, make it something like 5500, and hopefully he goes berserk with a, you know, something like ace 10. I think I decided, since he's showing strength on the flop, I decided to let him bomb away on the turn, and then, you know, kind of check raise him there and try to get it all in there. But I think I made a mistake in terms of stack sizes. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, I don't think it's as big a mistake as I thought it was at the time. If he actually has something, he's going to call my shove here. And he's going to call my shove as often as he would call if I made it, you know, the min raise. Like, say I made it 5300 there. Either if he has something worth calling, he's going to call that bet as often as he will call my shove. So I don't think this is as bad a mistake as I first thought. Yeah, and given how much he's already committed to the pot, I think the only real bet that I can make right now that doesn't look crazy strong is a shove. I can represent straight draws, I can represent just the 10, and hopefully he has, you know, maybe jacks or something like that, or, you know, hopefully he thinks his 10 has a better kicker, something like that. So yeah, that's probably the only bet that I could possibly make here, and I think, you know, I beat myself up about it just after the hand ended. But looking back, I don't think there was much more I could have done. Maybe check raise, or maybe 3-bet on the flop, and hope that he gets it in with me there. Yeah, but other than that, I don't think there's much more I could have done. So I do go ahead and put them all in, and he folds. So Stu formerly was, you know, right on our heels, and now we have more than double his stack. But unfortunately, Copper Cliff has made a rebound, and now he's in second place. No one else really has a stack worth worrying about, and we're basically just running away with things at this point. Okay, I think if Steve Steve opens, and if no one else had called, I'd probably 3-bet here and call if he shoves. But because Copper Cliff called in between, I think calling myself is probably the best play at this point, and, you know, hope to hit a set and get a big chunk of chips from Copper Cliff. Yep. So we're just set mining here. Don't when you have pocket fours and the board comes like this, and, you know, you have second pair. If your plan pre-flop was to set mine, don't throw that plan out the window when you realize, oh my god, there's, you know, not very many overcards to have a pair, and I may have the best hand here. Still kind of think cautiously. Don't go nuts raising here. Calling might be an option, but actually I think folding is probably the best bet, especially when Steve is attacked behind. And turns out Steve didn't do anything, and Copper Cliff wins the pot. But yeah, don't go nuts. When your plan is to set mine pre-flop and the flop comes, you know, it looks very nice for pocket fours. It doesn't look like it hit either their ranges. But but don't go tricking yourself into thinking that pocket fours is now the nuts, and getting a lot of chips in the middle with it. There's a weak lead by Copper Cliff. Let's see what Eradicator does. He raises. He may not be making the move that we are considering making against Copper Cliff, because he did raise under the gun, so that implies that he, especially with a short stack, implies he has a very strong hand. And I would expect this to go check shove and maybe call by Copper Cliff. Yeah, there's the shove, and well, the fold. Alright, we're gonna call the min raise from, even though it's under the gun, Spy Network has enough behind that this is a profitable call in the long run. If we set mine, I think once he checks the flop and the turn pairs the board, this is a good spot to, put him on some kind of 2 overcard combo, ace jack, ace queen, ace king, king queen, something like that. Take a stab here, but now we are forced to do nothing. I'm not sure why he checked back with the river. I'm not sure what he was hoping to hit, but he did. We wouldn't have called anyway. I think there was the mistake there was not betting the turn. The river was, we were in check fold mode. So Steve shoves his 11 big blinds. Eradicator wakes up with a hand, and that's it for Steve. Eradicator, who was down to 800 chips at one point, is now a bit of a force with his 36 big blinds. Been raising the weak ace offsuit. Stu calls on the button, and Copper Cliff on the big blind. When 2 players call me, especially 2 players who I've identified as sticky, who like to call a lot, I'm going to be continuation betting a much lower frequency than I would normally, especially when I whiff the flop so magnificently as I did here. If Stu wasn't in the way, I may take a stab at Copper Cliff here, but since Stu's behind me and this is such a connected board that hits a lot of their calling ranges, right in the face, then I think I could just safely fold here. Let's play it out and see what happens. And those are some fantastic hands to call raises with pre-flop. I guess we're playing any suited cards now, boys. So the old Queen 3 suited and the Jack 5 suited. Stu is suffering from the same affliction that Copper Cliff has, in that he's trying to gamble off his big stack. That's a surefire way to lose a bunch of chips before the final table. Spoiler alert. Alright, let's see. This might be a good spot to make a move against Eradicator, and I do. If you remember, I made a move against him before with the Ace-7 when he had top pair. I don't like making the move here. I mean, that hand he did have the top pair, and he didn't let it go. So I'm not sure what gave me the confidence to make that bet. I don't necessarily like that bet. The fact that it worked is irrelevant. I'm not sure I would have folded on the flop, but I think maybe calling the flop and then maybe taking a stab on the turn if he checks to us. But creating a big pot there versus a player who, in our history with him, has shown an unwillingness to get away when he leads out on a board. But it worked, so let's keep throwing the hammer down on these people. I expect a raise here if it's fold to me. I do. Here's a spot where I might take a second stab at it against Spy Network, who he's one of those players who likes to call any flop no matter if he's hit the board or not. And I've had some success double barreling versus him, but I choose not to here. And I don't think it would have worked given what he had. What if I 3-bet here? Nope, just flat against Coppercliff again. There's the weak lead. He's leading out for exactly what he bet pre-flop. And this is the line I think I wanted to take against Eradicator in that last hand when I had the Queen 9 and I hit second pair, calling the flop and then taking a stab on the turn. If he checks, you're keeping the pot small. If he bets the turn, then we can safely throw our jack away, although maybe we don't, given this run out. Although, actually, maybe we do. But I think keeping the pot small on the flop and then reevaluating on his turn action, especially given the fact that we have position. So if he checks here, I'm pretty sure I bet something like 1800. Yeah. I'm definitely not folding here. And the question is, do I want to raise at this point? Looking at it from my perspective now, I think I like calling again, although I wouldn't necessarily mind raising. Yeah, there's the raise. I think either line would have been fine there. Against the player, we've identified his pattern, and we may as well take advantage of that pattern. And if he bets 900 pre-flop, 900 on the flop, and then he just goes ahead bets 900 on the turn, we've identified that as weakness. And so if we've done that, we may as well take advantage of it and put in a little raise and get him to fold, which he does. And we're in cruise control. Alright, so we got Coppercliff opening and Eradicator re-raising. Expect this to be a big pot, as most of the time when this dynamic happens, it turns out to be a big pot. So let's see how Eradicator manages to get the rest of his chips in the middle. Does he do it now, or does he do it on turn? Oh, he doesn't do anything now. Oh boy. Okay, well, I think I like, let me go back to that turn action. I think I like the read. Eradicator is assuming that since Coppercliff didn't bet the flop, that he can't be that strong, and the 6 couldn't have helped him. The problem is that when he goes all in here, he's giving Coppercliff such crazy pot odds to call. You can see that Coppercliff only has to win 26% of the time here. If Eradicator had something like 8,500 or 9,000 or maybe even 10,000, I think I like that move even better. Not, obviously not given the actual hand that Coppercliff had, but given the range of hands that he could make this bet with, some value hands and a lot of different bluffs. Yeah, I like the read and I like the follow through, but I don't think it was a good spot because of his stack size. If he had a larger chip stack and thus more fold equity, I think I like this move by Eradicator a lot more. But as it stands, I think that he just didn't have the chips to make this move at this point. Good thing he got lucky and hit his 4-outer. Good thing for him. A limp from Predicted, a limp from Coppercliff, and we have kings in the big blind. So like I said before, when there are limpers ahead of me and I'm going to raise, here's how I choose my bet size. I take what would be my standard pre-flop open. So in this case, it would be 2x, so that's 600, and then I add all the limpers. So 600, 900, 1200. And I made it 1550. Well, why did I do that? Oh, actually, yeah. This is the spot that I was mentioning last time. My standard size here would be 1200, but since definitely Coppercliff is the kind of player that will limp and call. I'm not so sure about Addicted, but definitely if Coppercliff is limping, he's going to call a lot of raises behind and hope to hit a flop. So I'm making it a bit bigger than I normally would, just to get a bit more value out of him. I wouldn't have made this raise size if I had something like Ace-Jack or Pocket Sevens. I would have made it the standard 1200. But since I have, a monster, I want to get a bit more value out of a player who's going to call a lot here. So I made it just over 4x. Get a bit more chips in the pot pre-flop when I'm 100% sure I have the best hand. So Addicted folds, and Coppercliff does in fact call. And we're certainly not going anywhere on this flop. You'll notice that's a bit bigger than my standard c-bet size. Normally I would make it something like 1400, but I made it 1900 here. And that follows in line with the pre-flop raise size. Since I've identified that this player is going to be calling a lot, when I'm fairly certain I have the best hand, I want to make the pot a lot bigger against that kind of player. That's the only real time I deviate from my standard 42% of the pot bet size is when I've identified the fact that my opponent is going to call, so get more chips in the middle. And he does. And now we are going to shove the turn because there's 7,500 in the pot, and he has substantially less than that. So we put them all in, and he calls, and he had the ace and the jack. So Coppercliff, who, if you remember, if you've been watching the whole series, he started out like a house on fire. He doubled up early and won humongous pots in the first couple orbits, and here he is busting out before the final table. I think so. He had a stack that should have made a deep final table run, and he winds up busting out 11th and really doesn't come close to the prize. So there's a lesson for you. If you are fortunate enough to get a chip stack early, take care of it. Make it grow slowly, and don't try to gamble it off to win the tournament right now. Have some patience. Look for good spots. Be aggressive, but don't bloat the pot when you don't have the best hand. Here he was just hoping that I was bluffing 3 streets I was bluffing off my stack into him. Yeah, I think that's the end of the lesson.